I remember the day started like any normal morning. The school smelled of disinfectant, and the fluorescent lights buzzed above as students shuffled in. But then, over the intercom, a calm voice announced, "Lockdown protocol initiated. Remain inside your classroom." At first, we thought it was just a drill. Everyone laughed nervously. I didn't notice the faint scratching sound that followed the announcement, like nails dragging across the walls. The first hour passed slowly. Then the lights flickered, briefly plunging the classroom into darkness. When they returned, one of the students was missing. Everyone froze, searching frantically, but the door had been locked automatically. Panic started to creep in. We tried calling the office, but the phones were dead. Then the scratching returned, louder, closer, moving from wall to wall outside the classroom. By the second hour, the school felt alive. The hallways twisted and stretched when anyone peeked through the windows. Doors that had always led to the gym or cafeteria now opened to endless corridors shrouded in shadows. My friends whispered, "It's like the school doesn't want us to leave." I laughed nervously at first, but the sound of footsteps pacing outside the walls, out of sync with our movements, froze me. Then came the whispers. Not through the intercom, not from any person, but inside my head. Names being called, secrets revealed, threats whispered just behind my consciousness. Every time someone tried to step into the hallway, they vanished, only to reappear minutes later, staring blankly at the ceiling, unable to speak. Fear fed the building, I realized. Every scream, every frantic decision made the school grow stranger, darker. By lunch, the cafeteria had become unrecognizable. Tables stretched into impossible shapes. Chairs stacked themselves against the ceiling. Food rotted in seconds, leaving only the stench of decay. I tried to calm my classmates, but each solution we tried, breaking windows, using emergency exits, even crawling through vents, led to worse outcomes. One student, trying to escape, was swallowed by the shadows in a hallway, leaving behind only a faint echo of their scream. The intercom crackled suddenly. "The school is hungry. Feed it." My stomach dropped. I didn't know what that meant, but instinct screamed to stay in the classroom. Outside, the walls pulsed, as if breathing. Lockers slammed open and closed violently, books flying across the hallways. Each attempt to move forward brought another danger. Shadows growing, whispers multiplying, doors slamming shut just before we could reach them. By evening, the lights failed completely. Only emergency strobes flickered, revealing shapes that shouldn't exist. Tall, twisted figures moving along the walls, sometimes mimicking the students' forms, sometimes stretching into impossible angles. I huddled in the corner, counting my classmates. Less than half remained conscious. Some were screaming, some muttering incomprehensibly. The shadows seemed drawn to the panic, circling and feeding off it, growing bolder with every heartbeat. I tried one last time to escape through the main doors. They opened, into a void. The hallway was endless, lined with hundreds of eyes staring at me from the walls, the ceiling, the floor. Behind me, the whispers became screams, and the scratching transformed into a chorus of nails against metal. Every step I took, the floor seemed to stretch, dragging me deeper into the building itself. I don't know how I survived the night. I barely remember the sunrise. When the doors finally unlocked, the school looked normal again. Hallways familiar, lights humming normally, and the intercom silent. But I can still hear it. The faint scratching, the whispering names, the promise that the school will never forget those trapped inside. And I know, if another lockdown is called, it will remember me too. I never thought a regular school day could turn into a nightmare. It started like any other morning, with the hallways buzzing and lockers slamming shut. But that day, something felt off. The moment I stepped inside, the principal announced an unexpected lockdown drill. Everyone groaned, assuming it was just another practice. I didn't pay much attention at first. The first hint that something was wrong came when the alarm stopped after 5 minutes. Silence replaced the usual blaring noise, and the announcement system crackled only to whisper, "Stay where you are." My classmates laughed nervously, thinking it was a joke, but I felt a chill crawl up my spine. My gut told me this was no ordinary drill. By the second hour, things escalated. The doors, which normally unlocked with a click, refused to budge. Panic spread as students pounded on them, only to hear the locks click deeper with each attempt. The intercom remained eerily silent. I realized we were trapped, and not by accident. Then the shadows appeared. I saw them flicker across the windows and walls, slender humanoid shapes that vanished when anyone tried to look directly at them. My friends started whispering, some laughed nervously, others refused to speak at all. I tried to stay calm, thinking it was a trick of the light, but the shadows moved with intent, following each of us as we navigated the hallways that had suddenly grown unfamiliar and labyrinthine. During lunch, the cafeteria lights went out completely. Phones lost signal one by one. Screams erupted when a student reached for the emergency exit, only to find the hallway stretching impossibly long, like the building itself was reshaping. I tried to stay together with a group of classmates, but fear had a way of turning friends into strangers. Everyone seemed to hear things differently. Footsteps behind you, whispers in empty classrooms, doors creaking open by themselves. By mid-afternoon, I understood the cruel pattern. Every time we solved one problem, like finding water in the abandoned teacher's lounge, another emerged immediately. The shadows grew bolder, sometimes mimicking students, whispering secrets they couldn't possibly know. One of my classmates, terrified, bolted into a classroom only to find it empty, except for a single desk with a note. "You shouldn't be here." I felt my mind start to unravel as the school became a maze of impossible corridors and flickering lights. The ventilation system groaned and rattled, sending icy drafts that smelled like something long decayed. Doors that led to familiar classrooms now opened into darkened hallways lined with hundreds of eyes staring from the walls. Panic and exhaustion tangled into a suffocating knot. By evening, the intercom finally crackled again. A voice, distorted and whispering, instructed us to gather in the gym. Relief surged, until the doors slammed shut behind us. The shadows were waiting. They moved closer, silent but deliberate. Screams echoed as we realized there was no escape. Every plan we made failed instantly, replaced by something worse, something the school itself seemed to conjure. Hours passed, or maybe minutes. Time lost meaning. I huddled in a corner, trying not to breathe too loudly. My classmates had either vanished or were too terrified to move. Then I heard it, the lockers rattling, the whispering voices multiplying, and footsteps pacing just outside my hiding spot. I understood now. The school wasn't locked down to protect us. It was locked down to feed. And every problem we solved, every door we tried, only made the shadows stronger, hungrier. I don't know if anyone made it out that night. I only know that the next morning the school reopened as if nothing had happened, buzzing with laughter and announcements. The shadows were gone, at least in daylight, but I can still hear them, waiting for the next drill, the next lockdown. I arrived at school that morning with a weird sense of calm, unaware that it was the calm before the storm. The principal's voice over the intercom was unusually soft when announcing a lockdown drill. Everyone assumed it was routine, until the doors clicked shut and refused to open. The first sign that something was wrong wasn't the locks, it was the silence. Usually the hallway would echo with chatter and laughter, but now, nothing. Not a single sound except the faint humming of fluorescent lights. I tried calling my friend, but her phone rang endlessly without answer. I thought she was just away until I saw her through the classroom window, standing completely still in the middle of the hallway, staring at nothing. By mid-morning, anxiety had spread like wildfire. Every attempt to leave the classroom or open a door was met with resistance. The building seemed to respond to our actions. Doors jammed tighter, hallways stretched, and the once familiar layout twisted into something alien. Shadows flickered where there should have been none, and the faint sound of scratching echoed behind us, always just out of sight. One student tried to climb out a window but vanished when he reached the top. We heard a scream, sharp and brief, then silence again. Fear set in, heavy and unrelenting. I realized we weren't just trapped. Something was shaping the school around us, testing us, feeding off our panic. By lunch, the classrooms themselves seemed hostile. The chalkboards were smeared with messages none of us had written. "You shouldn't be here. It's hungry. Keep moving or disappear." Even the air felt thick, pressing against our chests, making every breath a struggle. One of my friends started talking to himself, muttering that the walls were watching, the lockers were listening. I wanted to dismiss it, but then I noticed the lockers shifting slightly when we weren't looking, as if something inside was alive. Afternoon brought the whispers. At first, subtle, just echoes in empty hallways. Then voices called our names, whispered secrets only we would know, and threatened things we hadn't shared with anyone. My heart raced with every footstep. Each corridor we tried to take led us to another maze of impossible hallways. Each plan failed, replaced by a new, more dangerous problem. One wrong turn and a door would slam, trapping us in a room that seemed to grow colder by the second. By evening, the lights failed completely. Only the dim emergency strobes pulsed intermittently, casting long, shifting shadows that seemed to crawl along the walls. The school itself seemed alive, breathing, watching. One student screamed when a shadow moved independently from the light, reaching toward him before snapping back into the corner. Panic and dread became contagious. I tried to stay calm, following a few classmates as we navigated the warped hallways, but every step made the building rearrange itself. Classrooms vanished, lockers appeared in new spots, and the ceiling stretched higher than it should have. Exhaustion gnawed at my mind. Every time we thought we'd solved a problem, found water, an exit, or even a safe hallway, another, worse challenge emerged instantly. Finally, near midnight, we huddled in the gym, hoping for rescue, but the doors slammed shut behind us. The shadows circled closer, whispering, scraping, breathing. Every heartbeat echoed unnaturally. I realized then, The lockdown was never a drill. It was the school's way of claiming us, feeding on our fear, stretching our torment, ensuring we'd never truly escape. When morning came, the doors unlocked as if nothing had happened. The school looked normal, bustling with students and staff, but I can still hear it. The whispering, the scratching, the promise that next time the school won't wait for a drill.